The Devil Brothers. We start this list with two brothers who didn't actually kill, but whose horrific attack left one of its victims begging, "Please leave me to die." On Saturday the 4th of April 2009, two brothers aged 10 and 11, who could not be named due to a court order to protect their identity, lured two boys aged 9 and 11 to an isolated area of Edlington, South Yorkshire. Once there, they subjected them to a horrific 90-minute ordeal. The boys were stripped, naked, and beaten with anything that came to hand. Bricks and stones were thrown at the boys' heads, whilst one of the boys was forced to perform a sex act. The other was strangled with a metal hoop. Reports also suggest the boys were whipped with sticks, and that barbed wire and a kitchen sink were used during the torture. When alerted by the sounds of passerbys, the Devil Brothers covered the victims with plastic and set them on fire. Once arrested, the brothers confessed to the attack, stating they only stopped as they were too tired to continue. It also came to light that one of the brothers filmed the attack on his mobile and could be heard stating, "Hell of a picture." The brothers were sentenced to a minimum of 5 years in prison. They were also granted lifelong anonymity on the grounds that they would be at risk of a serious attack if their identities ever became known. It is believed that now both are free from prison. Daniel Barton, the soap killer. Daniel Barton was just 14 when he murdered his mother in an attack inspired by one of his favourite soaps, Coronation Street. Daniel was a truly troubled teen who from the age of 12 had become increasingly reclusive, posting violent clips of his favourite soaps online and writing grisly stories. His mother's ex-partner told how he would often come down to show him the stories, where one kid would kill another. He also owned many expensive Star Wars and Doctor Who figurines, which were all ruined from him urinating over them. He was also known to defecate in boxes and stash them around his bedroom. On Easter Sunday 2011, he decided to commit what he thought was the perfect murder. That night, after mowing the lawn, he crept into his mother's bedroom and bludgeoned her on the head 7 times with a claw hammer. He then covered the body in paper, doused it in petrol, and set it alight. He then fled the blazing house, saving his younger brother and dog before claiming to police an intruder had attacked them. However, police soon found the murder weapon in his room, along with video footage from ITV soap Coronation Street, in which killer John Stape commits a similar crime. In April 2012, Daniel was sentenced to life in prison. The dare that led to murder. Brothers Connor and Brandon Doran and their friend Simon Evans were from a tortured, troubled background and rarely attended school. On the night of August the 17th, 2012, the boys were running wild, roaming the streets of Liverpool. At 5:30 a.m, they found themselves outside a local supermarket, where homeless man Kevin Bennett, 53, was sleeping rough in a doorway. Connor, 17, said to Simon, just 14, "I bet you haven't got it in you to do him." Then, whilst Brandon, also 14, kept watch, the boys proceeded to kick Kevin to death, even climbing on top of a storage cage to jump onto his chest. Kevin, who suffered horrific injuries, including a fractured eye socket, collapsed lung, and broken rib cage, died 6 days later of blood poisoning. Simon soon confessed to his mother, and despite all 3 denying murder in court, they were convicted and sentenced for murder. Connor for 12 years, Simon for 8 years, and Brandon for 6 years. Linda Doran, 42, was also jailed for 30 months, for providing false alibis. Rush hour slaughter. A gang of 20 teens who at first seemed like model students studying for their A-levels, Charles Catholic Sixth Form in West London. However, the gang had whipped themselves into a frenzy over a feud with another school in Fulham. On March the 25th, 2010, the gang headed to London Victoria Station to defend what they believed was their territory. Armed with metal bars, knives and even a samurai sword for the clash. Young promising footballer Sofian would become their target. They chased him down an escalator to the ticket hall, where in front of hundreds of commuters, a small group proceeded to kick and hack the boy to death. Sofian suffered wounds to his heart, lungs and major blood vessels. After several trials over 2 years, 3 of the gang were convicted of murder, 5 of manslaughter, 9 others were convicted of lesser charges, and 3 were cleared. In total, the jail terms handed out added up to 140 years. John Venables and Robert Thompson. On the 12th of February 1993, John Venables and Robert Thompson, both 10, abducted, tortured and killed 2-year-old James Bolger. James Bolger was led away from the New Strand shopping centre in Bootle, Liverpool, by the 2 boys when his mother had taken her eyes off him for just one short moment. His body was found severely mutilated on railway tracks 2.5 miles away. CCTV footage showed the boys shoplifting several items throughout the day, including batteries, sweets and blue paint, some of which was later found at the crime scene. The footage also showed the boys casually observing young children. After their arrest, one of the boys admitted they had planned to abduct a child and take him out to the busy road running alongside the shopping centre and push him into oncoming traffic. Footage captured the moment the boys took James by the hand and led him out of the centre. They then led him on a meandering 2.5-mile trek across Liverpool. On the route, they stopped at a canal, where James was dropped on his head and suffered multiple injuries to his face. During the 2.5-mile walk, the boys were seen by no less than 38 people, most of which did nothing. Those that did talk to them were told by the boys that James was their younger brother, or that he was lost and they were on their way to a local police station. Eventually they found their way to the railway tracks, where they began torturing James. The blue paint they had stolen earlier was thrown into James's left eye. They then proceeded to throw stones and bricks at him and repeatedly kicked him. The stolen batteries were also used during the attack. Finally, they dropped a 22-pound metal bar on poor James. In total, James suffered 42 injuries, including 10 skull fractures. On November the 24th, 1993, both boys were convicted of murder, becoming the youngest murderers in English history. They were sentenced to prison until they were 18, with both being released in 2001. Both boys were given new identities on release. However, it has been reported that John Venables has been recalled to prison several times, with charges relating to child pornography.